Hi, everybody. This is Mike Kerr, and this is the Recon Report for August 25th, a Tuesday here in the mountains of Idaho. Beautiful day. I hope everything's going well for everyone out there. A lot of stuff in the news today that we're watching. First and foremost, the Republican National Convention kicked off yesterday. And what a show it was. Donald Trump came out swinging, as did every other speaker there, Mike Pence, all of them, all basically stating the one underlying current, which is if the Democrats get into office, America, as we know it, is over. Our freedom will be stripped from us, and we will be once and for all a socialist nation. So pay attention to what's going on there, folks. Get out and vote. If you like the life that you have with the freedoms that you have in America, and you want to see us get turned around from this whole COVID crisis and the financial impact it's had on all of us, get busy. We're going to talk more about some of the things the Democrats are doing here in just a little bit. But let's start out with something that's pretty concerning and pretty awful in the Christian realm. Christians across America are reeling on the news that Jerry Falwell Jr. has gotten caught up in a Torid affair or rumors of a Torid affair. Now, we don't know if this is an attack again on Christianity, but it's not looking real good. But I want you to be reminded, and we'll talk about this again a little later, what happened to Jim Bakker. Jim Bakker was accused of selling basically snake oil as a cure for the COVID-19 virus. However, he was exonerated of that yesterday and found that he never claimed that it was a cure for COVID-19. So you can see what happens out there, especially in the Christian realm. We're under attack. But Jerry Falwell, I don't know. He's on indefinite leave, as it should be, from Liberty University, where he was the head. A pool boy. Now, this is just so weird. A pool boy has leveled a claim that the evangelist watched while he had sex with his wife, Becky Falwell, several times a year. The claims just have an affair with Becky Falwell, that Jerry watched them have sex, came from Giancarlo Granda. They met up several times a year for 6 years, he claims, starting when he was just 20 years old and ending in 2018. It contradicts Falwell's statement Sunday that Becky and Giancarlo had an affair that he later found out about, but he forgave his wife for that, and his wife repented for that. He released a lengthy statement claiming that Giancarlo was extorting them. He talked about forgiving his wife for her indiscretion and said he was so upset when he discovered the affair that he lost 80 pounds. Interesting. It's like, I don't really know here what to believe. He's taken a leave. Some say he has left the ministry and he is no longer involved with Liberty University. He denies that. He just says he's on an extended leave while they sort this out. You know, he is one of the most influential conservative Christians in the country. And he's endorsed heavily by Trump. So again, we don't really know as this story unfolds what's truly happening. But again, it's not looking good. Another leader in the Christian world taken down by this secret life. There's been so many that have fallen into this. And I'm telling you, the Jezebel spirit runs rampant, and not just in women. It applies to men and leaders within the community, the Christian community as well. So a sad day there for Jerry Falwell and for Christians around the world. Now, let's take a look at something different. If you're a football fan or a formal football fan, like I am, you've got to be upset with what happened. The commissioner, Roger Goodall, doubled down in an interview with, I think it's called Difficult Conversations with a Black Man. He says that he is in full support of the players kneeling in protest during the national anthem, and they are not unpatriotic. How do you come up with that? Really? I can't fathom this. The commissioner said the league should have listened earlier to Colin Kaepernick. Are you kidding me? I mean, Colin Kaepernick is just a menace to football and everything else out there that we believe in. And he goes on to say that players who protested racism by kneeling during the national anthem were right in doing so. I mean, this is just crazy. It was in an interview with Emmanuel Echo's upcoming web series, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. Goodall was given a chance to voice a public apology to Kaepernick, whom the commissioner said has thus far refused to sit down face-to-face for a meeting. Big surprise there. We've invited him, this is Goodall saying we've invited him several times to have a conversation to discuss this dialogue, and Kaepernick's declined. Again, whoa, big surprise. So Goodall is out there saying that he should have listened to Kaepernick, that these players are not unpatriotic. What is up with that? How much more unpatriotic can you get than not standing for the national anthem? So I'm encouraging you, boycott the NFL. Do not watch the football games. For some of us, it's difficult. I love football. I loved watching the games, but not anymore. I refuse to watch it. I refuse to support an organization that does not stand up for America and does not stand up for all the men and women who have defended our freedom in this country and our flag with their lives. So wake up, folks. Do not tune in to the NFL. So let's move on to COVID, okay, in New York. New York State recorded its lowest infection rate since the start of the pandemic, with just 0.66% of 62,000 people testing positive. Good news. But the powers that be in New York refuse to reopen the city. They're dragging their heels. Como announced the state's lowest infection rate on Monday. Over the past couple of weeks, this is Como saying this, over the past couple of weeks, our infection rate has stayed below 1%. He goes on to say, congratulations to New Yorkers for getting us to this point. So he's congratulating them, totally congratulating them, but he says that we must keep up that work and continue wearing our masks and social distancing. Okay. We're going to talk about the masks and social distancing here in a little bit. Yeah, I just don't get it. Look, if the infection rate has gone down, let them reopen. Let them practice social distancing. The most effective tool in containing the coronavirus, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, is social distancing. Now, let's move on to no good deed goes unpunished. Boy, is that ever true. Look at billionaire philanthropist Robert Smith, who paid off the entire Morehouse College graduating classes student debt to the tune of $34 million. He now is facing tax fraud investigation over an offshore account in the Caribbean. Now, what maggot went out there and tried to dig this dirt up for a guy that paid $34 million to relieve all these graduating students from their student loan debt? I mean, I just don't get it, how that could happen. Smith, 57 years old, is the CEO of Vista Equity Partners and is worth $6 billion. So 34 million when you're worth 6 billion, you know, I mean, it's not going to wipe you out, but I mean, it's a great, great effort to help these kids get a fresh start when they graduate from college. According to sources cited by Bloomberg, investigators looking into whether he used the offshore accounts in the Caribbean to funnel $247 million from his fund into his charitable foundation in 2014 without paying tax. Really? I mean, let's think about this. Talk about a witch hunt. I mean, you know what? I'm sure the man pays plenty in taxes. And now $247 million, $247 million went to his charitable foundation so he could give it away and do things to help people, truly help people one-on-one, not give it to the government where the government's going to waste it on things that don't work. So think about that again. No good deed goes unpunished. Now let's look at the lockdowns. The Wall Street Journal reported that there's a new thinking on COVID lockdowns. Overly blunt and costly, the equivalent of 400 million jobs have been lost worldwide, 13 million in the US alone. Global output is on track to fall 5% this year, far worse than during the financial crisis, according to the International Monetary Fund, which I'm not a big fan of. But they said it, and I think it's true. Despite the steep price, few policymakers felt that they had a choice. They're going back to draconian times with this. I mean, it's incredible what's happening out there. And I mean, businesses have closed, people stay home, all without extensive analysis of the benefits and risks that usually precede a new medical treatment. So they just went out and did this out of panic and fear for a virus. Panic and fear for a virus. Sure, it's bad. So is the flu. It kills the elderly and it kills the young every single year. But this time around, it turns into a global pandemic and is crippling the economy throughout the world. So, I mean, you know, we look 5 months later and evidence suggests that the lockdown was a very economically costly tool. Politically difficult to keep in place for long enough to stamp out any virus. The economic pain mostly comes from the sick people, but from the healthy, mostly does not come from the sick people, but mostly from healthy people trying not to get sick, right? They're staying home, they're not going out, consumers aren't going out, businesses that rearrange or suspend production, everything slows down to a near stop. During the 1918 to 1919 flu pandemic, some American cities closed schools, churches, and theaters and banned large gatherings. We know that to be true. Funerals were restricted to just store hours. I don't know what that, whatever, I don't know what the purpose of that was, but none imposed a strict stay-at-home order like we have now. No measures were imposed during the '57 flu pandemic, the next deadliest one. Even schools stayed open. So you see what they do? I mean, they go back into study your history. It is draconian what they're doing today. That's what's happening in America. And you need to stand up. We need to stand up and say enough is enough. We need to get back to business and keep our country strong. Here's some really sad news, really sad news. coming out of Kenosha, Wisconsin. There was another officer involved shooting. Now, I've seen the videos. It's hard to tell what happened in this case, but it's sad. It's truly sad what went down. Jacob Blake was the 29-year-old man who was shot and has now been paralyzed. Now, before everybody jumps off the cliff and tries to bring this up as like the horrid state of affairs that police officers are imposing on all of us in this country, you need to take a step back. We need to find out all the details. One of the videos shows this guy battling with two police officers, fighting with them. So was there enough going on there to use deadly force? I mean, we don't know. We don't know what was in the car. We know his kids were in the car, but we don't know what he was trying to get out of that car. Could it have been a gun? Could it have been a knife? I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I don't know what happened. And neither does a lot of the people out there who, unfortunately, are rioting. One was quoted, they were quoted, the police department there is saying, it's like a scene out of hell. Armed BLM riots, loot, pillage, and burn. They actually burned down a church that supported Black Lives Matter and had services and events there where they were in support of Black Lives Matter, and they burnt the church to the ground. Now, what is going on there? Where is that? Where is I mean, I don't even know what I want to say, folks, with this. Where are these people even in touch with reality? They burn down their own supporters. You know, I mean, rioters mobbed the police station and reportedly lobbed incendiary devices at the cops before the police scattered them. Then the rioters took to the streets and just went rampant, burning stuff down. Now, according to the Kenosha Police Department, the officers responded to a domestic incident at 5 p.m. and the incident resulted in a shooting. Officers provided immediate aid to the person. The person was transported via Flight for Life to a hospital in Milwaukee. He was in serious condition, and now, of course, we have found out that he's paralyzed. Awful, horrible, horrible, awful. I'm not going to deny that, and we don't have the facts, but if these police officers acted in malice, then I tell you, they're going to be punished. But why go out and burn the whole town down? Why riot? Why do all that? I mean, and loot. These people don't care. They don't care about what happened to this guy. They want to steal stuff. They want to burn stuff down. They want to raise their arm and their fist and say, I'm mad at the establishment, so look at this. I'm going to burn my own neighborhood down. Not a lot of logic in that, folks. I suspect that tonight will be worse because they announced today that he was paralyzed. And I suspect the rioting will get worse. And how long do we put up with this? Like what goes on in Portland and Seattle. When do we say enough is enough? I think it's time to say enough is enough. And all of us stand up to this tyranny that's sweeping across America. So we talked earlier about Jim Baker. So we all know he has a popular television show, The Jim Baker Show. He's 80 years old. And today he was recovering from a stroke. And yesterday, the FDA announced that it has closed the investigation and officials from more than one state have backed down following a federal lawsuit. Now look, this is so typical of what happens. We're persecuted. Jim Baker, of course, has a past. He's repented for that past. You know, he's done a heck of a job in turning his life around. He served his time, he came out, and he's been doing good work. Every time he does, someone attacks him for his past. I certainly understand that, you know, but I mean, it's just incredible how this happened. You know, they are now coming back and saying, hey, oh, okay, he really didn't do anything. I mean, according to the July 8th closeout letter from the FDA, the Jim Baker Show has addressed the concerns raised on March 8th warning letter regarding the Jim Baker Show and its promotion of silver solution. Attorneys followed, and they said, Baker's attorney, that he took corrective actions in response to the letter. However, the damage here, folks, has been done. They painted him as a snake oil salesman using Christ as an umbrella to profit. And you see, that's what they do. And we need to be aware of that as Christians. We need to watch out, because when we hear these things about Jim Baker or Jerry Falwell, we need to look into them and investigate them. Jerry Falwell Jr. may have done something horrible, and he will have to, and his wife will have to deal with the Lord. But we don't know, as other Christians and human beings, exactly what goes on in here. I believe we're constantly attacked, and I believe that men of faith who reach a certain level are tempted, just like all humans are. They're tempted. They need to be strong. They need to stand up, and they need to be accountable for their own actions. So that's enough said on that. That's where we are. Now let's talk about Kamala Harris. In her speech, she lies repeatably. This was her first speech as Biden's running mate. She goes on in her speech to say, the president's mismanagement of the pandemic has plunged us into the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. Those are her words. Well, that's false. The pandemic and its associated lockdowns, not the president, are responsible for what happened. Not the president. You can't blame the president for a virus that comes in and we go through lockdowns to protect it and then say it's his fault that the country is facing an economic crisis. Then she goes on and she says, just look where Trump and Mike Pence have gotten us. Millions of kids who cannot go back to school. Wait a minute. It's the liberals that said, shut the school down. She's wrong again. It's not Donald Trump's decision whether kids go back to school or not, because the federal government doesn't even run the schools. Really? I mean, come on, wake up, wake up. The primary reason the kids didn't go back to school, folks, is the opposition from the teachers union. That was like the main reason. The second largest union was threatening to go on strike rather than have the kids go there. Now, one more lie that she spewed out there that they nailed her on. She said 6 years ago, in fact, we had a different health crisis, Harris said. It was called Ebola. We all remember that pandemic. What? Where does she come up with that? She says, but there's a reason that the coronavirus has hit America worse than any other advanced nation, and it's because of Donald Trump. Really? Wrong. Several advanced nations have suffered more fatalities per million people than the US. Belgium, the UK, Spain, Italy, Sweden. Donald Trump's not in charge of those countries, but I'm sure the Democrats and Kamala Harris thinks he is. These are their tactics, folks. Be aware of what is going on in America, how this affects all of us, why the lies can take down our way of life in America, take away your freedom. We reported on cashless societies yesterday. They want to track everything, and the Democrats are behind this. They want to track every dime you make. They want to know where you are, where you're spending, where you're buying, what you're doing all the time, so that they can control things and work their agenda. to take America into socialism. So pay attention, do your research. And now, like for the last item today, another fatality in the COVID virus. Kentucky Fried Chicken, or they don't even call it that anymore, KFC, has stopped using the term finger licking good. The slogan on all of its advertisements after 64 years is being wiped out because of the coronavirus panic. They think that using the term finger licking good is inappropriate during these times. Do you see what's happening, America? Do you see? It's pandemic, lies, lies, lies. You know, there was a study about the mask saying that the mask is ineffective against long-term exposure to the coronavirus. Many people use the same mask for months. They don't change them. They just use the same mask over and over and over again. Now, what they do say is effective is social distancing. So I'm just confused, and maybe some of you, when you comment, can help educate me on this. Is it the mask or is it the social distancing that works? If we can social distance, which has been proven to work, and all adults understand what social distancing is, why do we need the mask? Or if we have the mask, why do we need social distancing? But they have proven in this study that the mask, when people wear the mask, they don't social distance. And it's causing them to spread the virus when they congregate while wearing a mask. So I don't know, listen, pay attention, do your research. Don't listen necessarily to the mainstream news, dig into it. Go to the other sites. Lisa Haven at Lisa Haven News is a wonderful, wonderful source for information that you're not being told out there. Check her out. Lisa Haven News, just Google it. She has a YouTube channel where she does some incredible work. So listen, thanks for tuning in for today, folks. Don't forget, subscribe to this channel and click the bell so you know when a new report is coming out. We'll see you tomorrow for another edition of the Recon Report. Thanks for joining us.